This is a photo of the filtration system that I use for my drip system. I've tried disc filters, I've tried sand media filters, but I always come back to reverse osmosis for that extra push that makes my irrigation water up to drinking water quality. Sure, it costs me tens of thousands of dollars to own and operate this water cleaning system, but nothing's too good for my pumpkins, corn, and squash. Hello, I'm Paul, and this is The Long Green Line, a series about invention, adaptation, and growing plants. We're testing an invention to an adapter to attach drip tape to gated pipe, and in the process, we're growing a garden that's 2.5 feet wide and 1,000 feet long, a long green line. This is episode 3. The episodes build on each other to some extent, so you may wish to watch episodes that come earlier before this. There are face flies today, so if I'm swatting, that's the reason. Uh, Today we're going to talk about cleaning the water to go into the drip tape. A person can really take a haircut when it comes to filtration systems and paying the cost of the filtration system. We're going to leave aside reverse osmosis and the other typical filtering systems and look for a low-tech, low-cost way to clean the water. Now, I acknowledge that some of you who are thinking about trying this type of irrigation, hooking your drip tape directly to the gated pipe, that cleaning the water may be a showstopper for you. There may be no way you can get the water clean enough. But I invite you to sit back and watch this video, see how I'm cleaning it, and perhaps some of the ideas that I'm using will be useful for you. The challenge with drip tape is that the emitters in the drip tape where the water comes out are really small. The emitters can become clogged with sediment or debris, and then our plants are going to die a slow, painful death. Plants don't feel pain, but we farmers feel the pain of watching them die. You know, it's interesting. There seems to be a pattern. The more efficient of an irrigation system that a person puts in, the cleaner the water needs to be for the system to operate. Drip irrigation is highly efficient and needs highly cleaned water. Normally, with a discussion of cleaning water, we would start at the head of the system and look at filtration systems and ways to clean the water as it comes into our system. But I'm going to do the opposite today. I'm going to start here at the drip tape, and then we'll work our way up the system. So the first thing I want to talk about is the rate that the water comes out of those emitters. It turns out that emitters come in a wide variety of sizes, and you can get them that emit about 1/10 of a gallon per hour, just barely dripping. Others can emit up to half a gallon a minute or even higher. So the ones that have higher emission rates, I think the hole is a little bit bigger because the drip tape companies don't require such fine filtration. You know, it could be a filtration that's noticeably less if you have a high emitter rate. So uh, I would suggest that we go with emitters that have high emission. The next thing we want to talk about is a spacing of the emitters. It turns out that you can get emitters spaced at quite a variety of distances. So one of the tapes that we have here on the line has emitters every 16 inches, and you can see by the white tape here that they are 16 inches apart. The other one has emitters that are 8 inches apart, which looks like this, but there are actually tapes built that have emitters every 4 inches like this. So I'm thinking that what we could do is get tape that has emitters quite often, and that way if we have to have an emitter plug, that hopefully one nearby hasn't plugged yet, and then we could still irrigate our crop and keep it growing. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is how long the tape lasts. They make tape that's really thick walled that is supposed to last several years. That's cool if we have good water, but if we have water that is going to clog our emitters, maybe we can only get 1 year out of the tape. The tape that's thin walled and is only expected to last 1 season is noticeably less expensive. So I'm thinking that maybe we ought to just buy tape that's only expected to last 1 year. If it makes it through the season without getting too clogged, then it's served its purpose, and we can use a brand new tape the next year. And then also I want to talk about tape variety. It seems like every tape manufacturer is coming out with a tape that they say can take water that's more dirty, less filtration. They're all bragging about how good their tape is for dirty water. Well, their definition of dirty water is different than ours, but still they seem to be going in the industry to being able to handle more and more dirty water. That's encouraging. We hope they take it up. So you can look for a variety of tapes that can take dirtier water. So maybe what I ought to do next year is get all the main manufacturers to send me a roll of their best tape for dirty water. I could line them up here side by side and we'd have a drip tape smackdown and see which one lasts the longest. So let me review here the ideas I have about how we can use our tape, choose our tape to have success even if we don't have the best filtration. First of all, emitter size. Go for the largest size that you can get. In other words, the quickest rate of dripping. Then emitter spacing, go with a close spacing in case some clog. Then choose a tape that doesn't last very long so that if it clogs, you're not out of a lot of money. And then look for all these special varieties that the manufacturers are bragging about. Okay, let's talk about using the gated pipe itself to clean the water. Probably every irrigator that uses gated pipe, when they finish irrigating, they pull the plug and let the sediment flush out. We have a couple of videos here to show you what comes out of a string of gated pipe after it's being used for a while. So we'll look at those videos now. You can see in these videos that there's a substantial amount of sediment and organic matter that can settle out of a gated pipe. And this has potential, folks. We have the possibility for a built-in settling pond. Stuff that is clogging the emitters is settling to the bottom of the gated pipe. Maybe we could set up a fairly long string of gated pipe for the field where we are doing our drip irrigation and arrange to draw out a relatively small amount of water with our drip tape to keep the velocity low. And set up like this could settle out a substantial amount. Now I want to consider and talk about my underground pipe. I'm fortunate enough to have underground pipe that serves the gated pipe here on the line. I've got about a half a mile of underground pipe. This is where the water comes out to serve the drip tape, the gated pipe that serves the drip tape. And I consider this underground pipe to be quite effective in settling the sediment out also. I, once again, think it's best, most effective if I don't have very high flow rates in the water in the pipe so that it can just be calm and let the sediment and the organic matter settle out. I do have a screen at the top of the system that we'll go look at pretty soon, but I don't use the screen all the time. I think that just using my pipe to settle and clean the water is quite effective. This is where the water enters the Orchard Ranch ditch, the ditch company that serves our farm. And it's important when you are putting water in an underground pipe like we have on this ditch to screen it so that you can get rid of the various things so that they don't come in and clog your pipe. You can see that we get some pretty big stuff in here We get a lot of leaves and trash and the occasional tennis ball and detritus of human civilization. These screens here are a 12 mesh screen. That means that there are 12 wires per inch, and that's plenty well screened for irrigating with gated pipe. So now let's go down and see where this water enters into the pipe at my farm. Okay, here we are where the water from the ditch company comes onto my farm. It turns out that I put the ditches on my farm into pipe before the ditch company piped their ditch. So I was getting water from a regular earthen ditch, and I needed to screen the water as it entered my pipe. And so this structure here is for screening the water. So this structure is now somewhat redundant since I'm getting screened water already from the ditch company. I decided to take advantage of this unique situation to clean the water even further. So I'm receiving water that's been screened to a 12 mesh screen. And then I had these screens here made. This is extremely fine screen. It's 120 mesh. That is at the level of screening that the drip tape companies typically request for water that's going into drip tape. So I'm able to actually screen this water to the filtration or to the purity that the ditch companies request. We're going to cut to a video and show you the water running over this screen and compared to the 12 mesh screen. Okay, so on the right, you can see the 120 mesh screen, and on the left for comparison is the 12 mesh screen. The 120 mesh screen works fairly well. The fine organic matter you see on the screen gets sorted back just fine. On the other hand, the sediment in the water tends to clog the holes in the screen. How often I have to brush the screens depends on how much water I'm putting over the screens and on the time of the year. Spring runoff water tends to have more stuff in it, so I need to clean the screens more frequently. What you are seeing there is a rather low flow, maybe about 150 gallons per minute. That's enough for around 12 lines of tape of the length that I have on the long green line. Also, spring runoff is over and the water is clean, as you can see. So under these conditions, I'm guessing I'd have to brush the screens about every 12 hours. On the other hand, with a higher flow rate, say enough for 30 lines of tape that are 1,000 feet long, and during the spring runoff, I may need to brush the screen about every 4 hours, and that's rather a pain. As I say, mostly so far we've just been using water coming out of the ditch company's 12 mesh screen and then relying on the underground pipes and the gated pipe to complete the screen or the cleaning by letting the stuff settle out of the water. So I haven't been using this 120 mesh screen very much. Okay, let's head back to the line. We have wild turkeys here on the long green line. I haven't decided yet whether they're friend or foe. I looked and it says they eat insects, so I'm hoping they're eating the grasshoppers. They also eat vegetation, so maybe they're eating the three sisters. I don't know. I want to talk about one other strategy that I'm using for cleaning the water here. It's not so much as a strategy as what I might call a philosophy. I call it the good enough philosophy. You know, my swather, it runs pretty well, but leaks a little bit of hydraulic oil. My irrigating shovel is pretty sharp, but it's kind of dull from all the rocks I hit. My tractor runs okay. Some parts of it are not working too well, but it still runs. So they work well enough. They're good enough. And for this drip tape, I'm probably not operating it at the pressure that's specified by the manufacturer. I probably have runs that are too long and maybe too much slope, too much gradient, but it's working. It's good enough. And so I have the same philosophy about cleaning the water. It may not be according to manufacturer's specs, but the various things that I'm doing is working so far. I'll let you know at the end of the season whether it was successful. But so far, I've run water through this tape about 175 hours, and I do not yet see any emitters that are plugged or clogged or any dry spots on the line. So far things are good enough. So now let me summarize on what I've said about on the topic of cleaning the water. Number one, choose your tape carefully, your drip tape carefully. Think about your emitter spacing, the emitter size, and the variety of tape that you get. Number two, use your pipe if you can to settle the sediment and the organic matter out of the water. Use it as a settling pond. Number three, if you're fortunate enough to have a situation where you can put in a screen of any kind, the finer the better, then that's helpful to you. And number four, maybe you wish to adopt the good enough strategy and push this specifications that the manufacturers give and try to do things that even though it's not quite in manufacturer's specifications. That's enough for water today. Let's check in on our plants and see how they're doing. I think that some of them should be growing faster than they are. Maybe I just need patience. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Anyway, one of the three sisters is struggling. The beans are really being eaten by the grasshoppers, so they're having a hard time making it, but we hope they pull through. So let's look at the plants again and see what they've done since we shot last time, and you can judge for yourself how much progress they're making. Well, that's it for today. We'll see you next time on the Long Green Line.